Hi everybody, it's Annette from The Art of Intuition, and today we're going to talk about cycle closeouts. So a lot of things we're going to do take place over years. So when we're working through certain core programming, human programming, it's not just that we go through one thing and it's over. We wish we went through one thing and it was over, but normally preference that, because this does depend on what you're dealing with. The bigger ones, survival programming, that can take a long time to work through, to where you're not going to go to survival mode when things get really, I'm going to say harsh for our human, or they get a little scary for our human. We won't go into survivor mode. We won't go into a very selfish mode. We won't go into panic mode. We won't go into a desperate mode to do whatever we can to grab onto anything because we're so afraid of what happens next. We don't do that anymore. But to work through a lot of that core, deep-rooted programming, that's not something that you work through in one experience or two experiences. And what you'll find, at least this is what I have found, it kind of can take years to work through that type of programming, to where you're always going to be able to come from your highest place, no matter how rough the ride is for our human. No matter how tight things get, no matter how compressed you feel, you can always come from your highest place. What you'll find is you keep going through a lot of times the same situation again and again and again and again, but it doesn't bother you as much anymore. And a lot of people would say, your human would say, oh, well, it's just because I'm used to it. I've gone through this so many times, I'm just used to it. And it's a truth to that, but you've also gone through it so many times, you burn through all the programming on it. That program, this situation is not triggering that program anymore. It's not triggering that fear. It's not triggering anything. You're just like, okay, whatever. Well, I've gone through this before. Normally when I'm in a situation and a lot of fear is coming up and I don't know what I'm going to do, and you have panic setting in, which this happens quite a bit. This is kind of the part of ascending our consciousness and ascending our body into higher consciousness realities that you don't hear a lot of people talk about. Everybody wants to talk about how great it is, and there are beautiful, great moments once you get through some of this other stuff. But you do have to work through your human programming, and that is not a journey for the faint of heart, to work through your human programming, because it's so ingrained in the body. So we have to dig deep. We kind of roto-rooter those things out. And to do that, we go through a lot of, sometimes what our human's going to talk about is going to feel is very harsh. And I'm always going to say, when I say harsh or tough, always for our human aspect. It's not for our higher aspects or our soul aspect. It's for our human aspect. That's how it feels. The panic sets in. You don't know what you're going to do next. You have this complete fear of what you should do. Sorry. I was distracted by something blinking, my computer blinking. You don't know what you're going to do next. So be aware that these types of programs take a while to work through. It's not just one thing and okay, well, I'm done. You see that a lot where people go, okay, well, I did it once and I'm done. That's really just the beginning. That's kind of the beginning of the journey to working through this type of stuff, working through your programming. If you're working through abundance karma, you might go through a long period of time where you're learning about not having a lot of money, but still knowing you're supposed to share all the money you have with other people, to put your work out there, whatever you're doing. And you kind of relearn how to use money. And that could take years. That's not something in the human realms we might have learned about money in, 20 years. We had kind of had how we would spend money or how we would use our money in 20 years. And when you get to the higher realities, all that gets thrown out the window because you don't use credit in the higher realms. Everything's on cash. So money kind of teaches us, and you learn how to use money all over again. What money is used for, the purpose of money is, which is probably a different video, but you learn that all over again. And you might go through a 3-year period where you learn that, where you sometimes get down to no money at all. But what used to panic you in your human realm, or maybe in the beginning of your ascension journey when you might be down to your, I'm going to air quote, it's my last $500, and then you get down to your last 30 cents in your higher realms, and it doesn't even phase you anymore because you've gone through the iteration so many times that you're like, okay, whatever, and at that point, you're getting to a closeout of some of this because these situations don't bother you anymore. It doesn't bother you to be down to your last 30 cents. It doesn't evoke any emotion. It doesn't evoke any panic. It's just like, okay, whatever. I guess this will all eventually come back around. It always does. So you get to kind of feel like you're almost reliving things over and over and over again. It's like you're in a Groundhog's Day, and it's not even a loop. It's not even like a human loop. It's like you're going through something, but in a different frequency. And sometimes when you're going through these longer clearings, which can take place over years, when you're getting into the deep-rooted, seated programming, human programming. I know I started something in 2019, and 2022 and 2019 to me were very much, they're almost like parallel timelines, and they seem like they're mimicking each other in a lot of ways. But I'm going through it in a much different frequency. Now, I'm not going to say like that whole 3-year period has been perceived by my human as rough as 2019 and the beginning of 2022, because it hasn't been. Because I'm looking at I'm looking at a different frequency, and you do have usually breaks in between. You might have 1 year where things are flowing in and everything feels pretty good because your body's doing other stuff, right? You're not working on that core programming. Your body's kind of getting a break from that. Now you're going to work on this for a while. But then that core programming comes back in. So whatever got you before, your universe is going to test you to see, is this going to get you again? We're going to take you down to nothing again and see what you do. It's also seeing if you can always hold, you can hold your highest, and if you have any more fear left about what's going to happen. And after a while, you just get to this point where a lot of the situations that used to send you into total panic mode, they just don't do that anymore. They don't have that effect anymore because you've worked through so much of it. So if you do feel like you're repeating, or you've been in a one long cycle, like I said, you might have had some stops and starts or breaks in between where things lightened up for a bit. A lot of that is to kind of get us to recover. But you also know you're kind of what I would call quantum jumping through things. And our human consciousness can't quantum jump. But when we get into higher consciousness, we're able to kind of jump through realities very quickly. And you'll find that I used to maybe have a 3-month rest between certain situations coming back, and I would have to deal with the fear of those situations again. And now it's like monthly. Like I don't have the much as a respite anymore, because you're trying to get through a lot of stuff, and you're also breaking down the programming quicker. Whereas I can break through something in maybe a month that might have taken me over 3 months. It might have taken me 9 months, because you really don't have time to waste. You don't have time to waste any more time on some of these bigger things, some of this human programming. You have to bust through it. You can't keep this and go to your next realities. So you can find that things start coming very, 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 very quickly all of a sudden. And what used to take 4, 5, 6 months, maybe a year to really kind of, I don't even know what word I want to use here, reveal itself, you find it's coming at you constantly. You start seeing everything coming at you constantly. Everything's breaking at one time. You're trying to figure out, what to do here and what to do here. You feel like you got your finger in a leak over here, and then there's another leak over here, and it's just constant, because you've got to get through a lot of this stuff. And if this doesn't freak you out, we're going to do this over here to see if this freaks you out, is what's going to get to you, because your universe is testing you and trying to clear you out for your next phase. So if you're in one of these longer cycles and you feel like you're repeating things, take some, I'm going to use the word pride, but it's kind of a human word, but kind of pat yourself on the back for how far you have come. and know that normally if you've been in something for a long period of time, and you start to go through the same things again and again and again and again, and it's starting to come at you very fast, more than likely you're getting to some kind of ending with it, because you're looking at it from a very different frequency, and it doesn't freak you out anymore. So you're not having the total freak out you would have had 3 or 4 years ago. Just look back at where you were 3 years ago, and you were dealing with I'm going to say the exact same thing, but it's never going to be the exact same thing because you're different now. But when you were dealing with something extremely similar, how much it would have freaked you out. Even for me, I can go back and look a month ago or 2 months ago when I was going through something that was really harsh on my human, and now I'm going through it again now, but I'm nowhere near where I was a month ago or 2 months ago. So you can just see how quickly you're clearing, and how, even though it feels like a lot, like you have a lot coming at you at once, that it's really not that it's really a gift to you. Your universe is doing you a favor to kind of get you through it quicker, even though it doesn't feel like it. But if you do feel like you need a reprieve, you can always ask your universe to kind of, hey, can I get a little break here? Can you just, even if you're in a lot of physical pain with ascension, you can do the same thing. Ask for it to lighten up. Just know that, you're probably going to have to hit another pocket of it. And that's what you might feel like it's just pocket after pocket after pocket and pocket of digging through a lot of our programming, especially that survival programming. You're going to be working through that for years. That is not a one-time thing. So when you see any video that says it's a one-time thing, that's just because they've been through it one time. That's not because it's a one-time thing. It's a long-time thing, but it's what we signed up to do. So even though our human doesn't like it, it really is leading to a place where it's also a sense of freedom when you get to, no matter how rough things can get, you realize it doesn't really depict your mood or how you feel anymore about yourself or your connection anymore. You're just like, okay, whatever, it doesn't matter. This will all get realigned at some point and it doesn't matter. Just let me connect in and see what I need to do. Is something I need to do to move this along, or is it just going to kind of rearrange on its own? So just keep connected and keep practicing the art of intuition.